And you are listening to KOPN Columbia 89.5 FM. It's just about 9 o'clock in the morning on Friday, and that means it's time for Open Mic Radio. Let's get things going in proper fashion here. This is one from Cave. It's called Sha Sha. We'll be back in a minute. How about that? Nice way to get started on your Friday morning. That one's Cave and a song called Shasha. It's Mike. You're listening to Open Mic Radio on KOPN Columbia. It's Friday morning, and what is it? I guess it's the 1st of February. Yeah, February 1st. So we made it through the first month.
It's almost Groundhog Day.
Of January. Yeah, coming up just
tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And anyway, cold, but not so much anymore. Thank God we made it through that.
Yeah, I took my gloves off.
That was brutal, man.
I was walking without my gloves off, or with my gloves off, and it felt like a real luxury.
Yeah, it's nice.
My hands.
All my nose hairs defrosted and feeling good now. So anyway, it is Open Mic Radio. Welcome to the program. Good morning to y'all. We got a break from the cold, like I said, a few days at least, and I'm glad about that. Got a good show in store for you this morning. I've got the one-of-a-kind Mr. Kyle Cook in the studio with me this morning. We're going to chat and play some songs, and we'll have some fun like we always do every Friday. We'll also do a rundown of some of the things that are happening tonight and tomorrow around this weekend. Swing on by if you're in our neck of the woods, 915 East Broadway. The door's always open on Friday morning, so come on down.
First Friday.
It is, yeah. First Friday, I love it. So Diana probably will do a big wrap up on that. She's real good about that. Coming up at 10 o'clock, speaking of the arts, First Friday and February 1st, 2019. I can't believe it, man. 2019. I thought the whole thing was ending 7 years ago.
I'm still writing like 2012 on stuff.
Me too. Oh, man. All right. So anyway, before we get to Kyle here, big thank you to Tanner from the Comancheros for coming down last week. He's a cool guy and a heck of a guitar player. Their record, Heavy and Western, is a good one, and it was fun to talk with Tanner last week. Catch those guys out and about if you get the chance. They're sort of the house band over there at Nash Vegas. And
I saw, too, that they have like an official Gibson sponsorship now.
Yeah, I'd say Tanner plays the coolest guitar.
Yeah, man.
Every time I see him, he's playing like some badass.
I was like, dang.
Yeah, I know.
Right
we talked about that a little last week, so good for them. And pretty cool music coming from those guys if you like the Western sort of metal scene.
Yeah,
totally. All right. Also, Hoot and Hollers, just off on the road yesterday to the UK. They'll be touring all month with the Dead South up there in London town and all about the British Isles. I think they'll do a couple shows in Scotland, but most of them are going to be in England. But great job for those guys. Real proud of them. They're doing great. And safe travels to John and Kelly and Andy.
I've had people wandering up to me asking if I had the new Hoot and Hollers album.
Yeah, really?
I direct them to the website.
Live in Missouri, right?
Yeah,
I'm surprised
live
you don't
in
have
Missouri.
a few copies of that on the shelf over there at Hit Records.
I'm waiting for them.
So what, they got to bring them over to you?
Yeah.
Oh, my God. All right, we got to make that. You hear that, Andy?
Yeah, buddy.
Anyway. All right, so anyway, good for them, and we'll see them when they get back. Also, I want to say quickly thank you to Bartholomew Bean. Me and Bean were down at the Rainbow House last night. We had our second concert, live Rainbow House concert, and Bartholomew Bean performed for all the kids there at Rainbow House last night. It was really cool. Appreciate that, Bart. It was great, and I think the kids really had a good time. And in the meantime, we should also do a shout out to some of my friends over there at Rainbow House. I'd like to say hi to Ziza and Mary and Sam and Bethany and Bob, even though that's not his name, and Asia and Kayla. And I'm forgetting
I like that, Bob. You know who you are.
He knows who he is. That's right. I'm forgetting a few. I'm sorry if I'm forgetting you. But anyway, Tracy and Crystal and Lance, all you guys just doing great work over there at Rainbow House. For you listeners out there in Radioland, if you're not familiar, Rainbow House is Columbia's only and Boone County's only emergency shelter for children. And it's an important place, and it's a good place to support if you got it in you. All right. Anyway, so great job, Bart. Fun times last night at the Rainbow House. And let's get to Kyle. My guest in the studio with me, Kyle Cook. He's a friend of mine. He's a fellow programmer here at KOPN. He's one of the proprietors of Hit Records over in downtown Columbia, right there by Ragtag. And he's picking the tunes this morning, so I'll have him pick another one here in a minute. But before that, we'll say hi, Kyle.
Hey, man, how you doing?
I'm good.
Great to be here.
I'm glad you came down. Thanks.
I'm never in here when the sun's up, so it's like,
yeah.
What's that? What's with that window? Oh, there's a window there.
There's a yellow thing in the sky.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that even during the day lately. So
I got my coffee. Cool. It's almost above freezing out there. Life is good.
All right. Well, we're gonna play another piece of music because that's what we do here. But what do you want to hear, Kyle? I'll let you pick from Girlpool, the Groundhogs, Kurt Vile. Yeah, those three.
No, yeah, that Girlpool I really dig. I was telling you off the air that Girlpool describes themselves as feminist folk punk, which is you don't often see folk and punk mixed together. But punk can be a pretty wide definition, and I say, you can live a punk lifestyle without even listening to music, but
That's right.
I won't go too far into it.
All right, we'll come back and talk more punk stuff. In the meantime, this is Girlpool, a song called Static Somewhere. I like that one. That's Girlpool. And you're listening to it here on Open Mic Radio, KOPN Columbia, 89.5 FM. I guess in the studio, Kyle Cook. Back at you. Hey, Kyle, what's up, brother?
How you doing?
Hey, where are you from originally?
I'm from Warrenton.
Warrenton, as in Warrenton?
yeah. If people from Warrenton hear me say Warrenton,
right,
they know I'm not from there.
So
I'm from Warrenton, and if you ever forget, my middle name is Warren. It's Warren County in Warrenton.
I'll never forget it again.
But my family's kind of split between there and California, Missouri. So,
all right,
Montauk.
And how did you get
Missouri?
What brought you from Warrenton to Columbia, Missouri?
Like a lot of people, I came to school here at Mizzou.
You went to Mizzou? What'd you study?
Studied elementary education.
And you're still doing a great job of teaching the children. I must say.
And I took that in a weird direction. It was Bush Jr. and it was no Child Left Behind. And I was like,
Or
you know
All
what?
Children Left
I'm going to
Behind,
try to
something
do
like that.
something else
Right.
with my life. And yeah, but I always loved Columbia. And like I was telling you just a minute ago, like getting involved with KOPN was kind of my first kind of putting down roots things here, like starting volunteering and programming here. I was like, oh, I really love this. And
I remember when it happened.
It was for me, it was a big deal. Like
2005,
like,
I think, is when you started doing.
That is absolutely right. Yeah,
I remember because it was 2004 when I began doing Radio Orbit.
Right.
And in 2005, I changed from doing the
Saturday night
early Sunday morning,
Monday
2 a.m.
night.
to 5, and I moved to Monday night.
To the old Uncommon Light spot. I
That's
believe.
right, Jeff Wheeler, Uncommon Light. And you and Tony took over the 2 to 5 on Saturday night, Sunday morning, and you're still doing it.
Yeah, it's crazy for me to think about because I remember like basically turning 21 and then starting to come up here and do radio shows in the middle of the night. And now I think about that, and I'm like, oh my God, how long have we been doing this?
It's really remarkable, actually, and really cool. And for those of you out there who are unfamiliar, Kyle does a radio program here right on KOPN on early Sunday morning. It starts at 2 in the morning on Sunday, goes until 5, and he does it with his partner named Tony. And there's a young lady that hangs out with you, Danny, sometimes. Is she always with you? Or
She's been coming the last few years.
She's great.
There's characters who come and go. You probably remember like Ranch Rachel back in the day.
Right.
Steph Foley. There's a regular caller, Crazy Dave, who people are familiar with.
Right.
There's people that have all these like nicknames and everything who've been calling for years. But you know, sometimes like years will go by and then this guy will call and he's like, it's Mud Shark. And I'm like, oh yeah, this guy's been calling since we started doing the show. And he goes by the name Mud Shark.
Oh my God.
Yeah, no, it's a trip, really.
And the show is called Mystery Science Radio 3000.
Right.
3000. And once again, 2 a.m. in the morning on Sundays, if you're up and about, check it out. It's one of the funnest and funniest.
After bars show.
Yeah, crazy program, actually.
Whatever it takes.
But lots of great music. In fact, I hear stuff on your program that I never hear anywhere else. And that's a testament to you and Tony and your depth of music.
Yeah, you know, we have to keep ourselves entertained. So that's pretty much what it is. It's like, you know, we almost don't repeat ourselves. So it's just like moving forward at all costs. Every week we get up here, I'm like, what do you got? And he's like, what do you got? I'm like, nothing.
There's a little.
I knew you were going to bring a lot.
So. A lot of radio on the fly going on MSR 3000, but a lot of fun too. And like we're talking about, it's been on the air now for going on 15 years. That's really amazing, really impressive.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, you've gotten involved in all kinds of different things around town here as well.
Sure.
Let me ask you about music before we start talking about the record store. You also rotate for a show called Holy Victrola.
Yeah, Wednesday nights, 10 p.m.
And that's a very interesting radio program as well. Tell people a little bit about
Holy
about
Victrola is kind of evolved into, in the last 10 years or so, a psychedelic rock show, but it is, as Sean Witzman would put it, it's recorded musical heritage of the world.
And Sean's the original host, yeah?
Which is, I guess the original host. I believe Paul Sturtz and Gabriel Viles at one point did this show.
Paul of
Ragtag and True False fame. Yeah.
Right.
And when I first came to town, I remember Paul and Trevor Harris doing these kind of like beat on the street pieces where they went out and interviewed. One of the first things I remember hearing on KOPN was one of those two out at Douglas Park interviewing kids about flying kites.
That's so great.
And I remember hearing that, and I was like, whatever this is, like, I love this, and I love this station. And that and a few other things, early memories, I remember hearing Jeff Wheeler playing Brian Eno's music for airports, and I actually sat in my car and waited for him to say what the station was, and I was like, I want to be involved.
That might take a while, too, on his old program. He'd play songs that were 30 minutes long.
That's true. I sat there. I got to my house, and I sat there in my car and waited, and it was a while. Yeah.
All right. So, original interest in music. You have honestly, you have a great depth of knowledge in music and a lot of different genres, a lot of different stuff. How did you originally get into it? Is it family stuff? Your mom, your dad?
Yeah. You know, I had those parents that were always listening to albums. You know, I had the mom who was obsessed with British Invasion. I had the dad who was, you know, the Bruce Springsteen, singer songwriter. Elton John, Bernie Taupin fan,
Right,
etc. But they were just always playing albums, and you start listening to what your parents are listening to, and then eventually
I had the same experience,
with alternative radio. And growing up in the 90s, it was things like the radio, but then MTV and so on. And I just have always gotten something out of listening to music, whether it be good, bad, whatever. It brings a lot out of me, and some people are driven to make music, and I've always been that guy that's like, I want to hear what you're gonna play, kind of thing.
That's awesome.
And I played the French horn for 10 years, but
really,
I put the horn down.
Drop the horn.
I was always, like collecting albums and everything. I was like, man, I don't want to play this thing. I just want to listen to these albums. But and that kind of steamrolled as I got older. Yeah.
All right, cool. How'd you meet Tony?
I met Tony in the dorms, he's also an educator. He was studying education as well. I met Tony because I looked into his dorm room, and he had an original Nintendo, and a stack of Nintendo games, and an old telephone, like the old brick style phone where you carry this end and you have a rotary telephone.
Yeah.
And I said, whoever this guy is, I want to meet him. But he didn't talk to anybody. So I eventually, just after a month of staring into this guy's room, this is before the dorms had air conditioning. Everyone had their doors open, and I was like, hey man, what's your deal? And we just I started doing his laundry. And I'm not kidding.
That's one way to make a friend.
Yeah, so that's how I initially met Tony. We went to school together. We always were super into music, and I think I've forced him to become more of an extrovert. He was like the introverted, quieter friend, and I was but we would go out, and it always clicked for us. It was like people, kind of an odd couple thing.
Well, and it plays real well on the radio as well.
Right.
You guys are really, really good together.
Tony's a really funny guy, but he also knows how to play the straight man.
He really does.
Yeah.
All right, before we get too far, I have to give a shout out to my friends from the Waste Management Gang in Columbia. They stop by every Friday in the alley and give us a little bang, bang, bang. Make sure we recognize that they're doing their thing and helping out everybody around Columbia. So thanks for that, and we'll get back to Kyle here. Hey, let's play another piece of music. What's that one you just gave me?
So Devin Frank, he was in a band locally that he formed here on the fly. He's just one of those guys that, this guy rolled into town.
Devin Frank, local Columbia guy?
He is from Iowa originally. Okay. He was in... if you start reading about this guy, you start to realize he's been kind of like that... I hate to use the comparison, but he's like a deadbeat dad musician. Okay, but let me explain. He's in Iowa, he was in 5 different bands. The guy moves to Durango. He's there for 2 months, and he has a band there. And then he lives in Columbia, Missouri. Instantly, he's befriended some of my favorite musicians in town, Josh Cochran, who sometimes plays in the Nash Vegas band, plays in everybody's band,
right, he's all
Taylor
over the
Bacon,
place.
etc. All of a sudden, he has this amazing band that he's fronting that kind of is reminiscent of Dylan and the band. He's this very Dylan-esque frontman, ultra confident, has the lyrics and the moves kind of thing.
Really?
But he worked at the record store. He worked in the philosophy department at the university, and then sure enough transferred to another school. Now he's in Champaign, Illinois, and he has a band up there. But he released a trilogy of tapes last year that the local label that kind of operates out of Hitt but is autonomous, called Tell 'em Tapes. And I can't say what that stands for on the air. It's Tell 'em I Said That. S is the official title of it, but Tell 'em Tapes has been releasing out tapes by local bands.
So in a
for the last
format.
few years,
so a little
runs of 50 always.
So we would consider that a small recording label, but producing stuff on cassette tapes.
Right. Yeah, and they've done a dozen releases so far, and all walks of life.
Tell 'em Tapes.
And the funny thing about these cassette tapes is, the last big tape manufacturer in North America is in Springfield, Missouri.
Is it BASF? Who is it?
It is National Audio on National Street. They specialize in cassette mastering and cassette production. So it's funny, we get like next day shipping from them.
That's
and
cool.
It's still a place you can just pick up the phone and call, and then you get this guy down in the like factory who's like, what, you already pressing? You need to press? Hold on. Let me talk to Jim, like kind of thing.
Right.
But it's amazing. These, we're pressing these cool local professionally mastered tapes.
Really
and
cool. Who's behind Tell 'em Tapes?
So John Hadusik, who works at the bakery and the shop, but he's a local kid. Has been in bands his whole life, and I first met him. He wrote for Vox Magazine, the Missourian, and I first met him as this like kid who was like interviewing me about the record store. But like you just really tell when people are into music sometimes, like instantly.
Right.
And we've been friends ever since. But him and another guy named Eric who does sound engineering for the university.
Awesome.
He goes by Dubs, D-U-B-Z, and he's an engineer, and he actually engineered the last record we pressed at Hitt, the new It's Me Ross record.
All right, we're going to play a little bit off of that on the way out of here this morning.
Right.
Sometime today.
Have a good night, y'all.
All right, it's time for another piece of music before I get too deeply inside.
This was pre-recorded.
Yeah. We do that all the time here on KOPN. All right, it's Mike, and you're listening to Open Mic Radio. My guest is Kyle Cook. We'll come back, and we'll talk about Hitt Records. And in the meantime, we're going to hear one here from...
Devin Frank.
Yeah, this is Devin Frank, and it's called Cast Off the Shadow
This is
Part 1.
a trilogy of all home-recorded 4-track recordings, guitar and percussion, etc. Yeah.
All right on. Here we go. Hey, all right, there you go. Open Mic Radio on KOPN Columbia. You're listening to it here. And that was Devin Frank. That one's called Cast Off the Shadow. And coming to you right here from Columbia. What's the name of the label again? Our cassette?
Tell 'em Tapes.
Tell 'em Tapes. Really cool. And that stuff's being distributed out of Hit Records.
Right. We're actually out of those puppies right there. But in the back of the room, there's a little Tell 'em Tapes section on the wall. And there's a little Dismal Niche, another great local label and festival that happens. A little section for them on the wall. There's also, like, a lot of kids just release albums at home, like on cassette.
Yeah,
and
people can record their own stuff.
So we also have this great little DIY section, and, we shouldn't do this show without acknowledging PDM, although I know, PDM doesn't like to be talked about.
Yeah, that's all right. We don't say anything else about it.
Sometimes, the powers that be, and they probably wouldn't even describe themselves as that at PDM. I'll be like, hey, this kid wants to interview you about like a DIY space. Right. And they're like, tell them no.
Won't do it.
We don't want to be in the paper.
Yeah.
But DIY spaces are really important. People who remember like the Hair Hole and Diva House, which is... Yeah.
And even the Catacombs for a while.
I met a kid this year who lives in the Diva House, and this young woman from Cleveland, Ohio. And,
really?
And I said, you live in the Diva House?
She didn't even know it.
It's like, what is that? So she texts her roommate. She's like, our house used to be called the Diva House. And the roommate's like, what? I know.
Oh, and
the roommate knew. But these DIY spaces are really important, and there always needs to be something like that somewhere. And it's something that always intrigues me when one pops up or is sustained anywhere.
Yeah.
And PDM and
it's cool.
And some of the people involved with that. It's a really great place for especially young bands to learn, everything about putting on a show, doing sound, etc., promoting. And it's like, if you can get people to come out to PDM, like, your band's probably got something.
That's right.
It's not an easy place to get to.
Yeah, it's real cool. And heads off to the guys and girls that are running that.
So I like when kids show up with their DIY tape, and it's just obviously homemade, and they've written the title on the tape. And
all right, so. Yeah. But we haven't talked about where these kids are showing up to. Kyle,
right,
and a partner,
Taylor Bacon, another KOPN programmer,
right?
Everybody in town
are the owners and operators of Hit Records,
right?
What's the address on Hit Street?
So it's 10 Hit Street,
10 Hits.
It's the same building as the Ragtag Cinema and the Uprise Bakery, and the former home of the rental arm of 9th Street Video.
Yeah, former home of 9th Street Video after they moved off of 9th Street. But anyway, Hit Records been around now for going on 6 years. You tell me?
Yeah, over 6 years now.
Incredible.
So. Yeah, we had the big 5-year bash, and then it was like, do you do a 6-year bash? It's like we've already gotten like old and a little like curmudgeon. You're like, we're not doing a 6-year bash.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about the store, though.
Sure.
When? We know you opened it 6 years ago.
2012.
What was the deal? You and Taylor just said, hey.
A couple of KOPN programmers and record enthusiasts, nuts, etc. When we first started having this conversation, it was just like that bar conversation that was happening on Monday nights. We used to host this vinyl night over it. Well, we still do at Uprise Bakery. An unofficial, an unprofessional DJ will bring in a crate of records and just start spinning records. And after doing that for a couple of years, it was an idea of Barry Hibdon's.
Yeah, Barry's been down there for years too.
And Barry,
he's a great musician himself.
Oh yeah, and a person who records and locally produces. As well,
Saint
still
Gnome,
does.
Right?
Saint Gnome, and then he has Red Boots Studio as well, and really terrific guy. And he's like, it'd be great if, on like a Monday or Tuesday night, people just bring down records and just like very casual kind of living room vibes. And we were doing that for a couple of years before we realized, man, like everyone who's bringing in these records is like either going somewhere else to buy records, including like Jeff City, or just buying online. It was like, we were doing the same thing. It was like, oh, you're going to Kansas City? Hey, let me go with you. I want to go shop for records. And the shops locally, going back through the years, Wiz, Salt of the Earth, Street Side was kind of on its last leg, and everyone knew that.
Right.
Slackers had really like downsized to mostly like video games, and at that time, video games, DVDs, and collectibles, and it was like, man, if someone should open a record store. We just kept having that for years, having that conversation.
Right.
So after a couple years of talking about it, we actually just started looking around for spaces, researching what it would take, kind of thing, and that conversation evolved into people within Hitt Street talking about, you could really have this hybrid thing with the video store, and it just kind of went from there. So when we opened, we were just above the video store in that little attic space.
Right.
Just a few, 6 shelves me and Taylor built with our buddy, and he was a carpenter. Yeah, he was a professional. And then Taylor basically put up his records, and I put up a little bit of cash. And when we first opened, I mean, it was truly extremely bare bones, and we were overwhelmed by, the amount of support we had right away.
Huh.
Yeah.
All right. And then the thing evolves, and now if people have not been down there to Hitt Records, I would say take a stroll down there someday.
Yeah,
it's a really cool space, and they've got a very unique sort of niche in the music market. There are things there that you are not going to find in a lot of other places. Talk a little bit about
there's popular favorites, but ever since we've opened, I was like, I want to have this. I want to have a crazy world section. I want to sell electronic music. I want to have hip hop and rap and these things that are like harder to find in the Midwest and in mid Missouri. But it's like a never-ending struggle for us. But we like doing it, and it's just like, all right, here's all the stuff people want, and then here's all the stuff we think people should want on top of that. So it is like it is this never-ending evolution and in and out and revolving door kind of thing, and I have a journal that's just like bands people tell me about, and every day I add a few bands to that thing. And we are in the age of streaming and the age of information, and then the fact we exist, it doesn't really make sense. There's always kids that want to come in and interview me about like, how are you guys here, kind of thing. Like, it doesn't make any sense. But at the same time, like, everyone's into music, and people want to support those artists in a way that people want to own pieces of that art, and I can go on and on about kind of the romanticism of the record collection and the sound that you get from high fidelity music, but there's a lot to it the more you think about it.
Yeah. No, and it's I've talked on the air with guests before on Open Mic Radio about the whole nature of sort of the streaming phenomenon and stuff. In fact, when Tom O'Connor was on the air just a couple weeks ago with Mobile Funk Unit, we were talking about having control of your music and actually being able to walk into your library and pick what you want. And sometimes your eyes will spot something that you weren't looking for, perhaps, and you'll go a different route. But also, if the internet goes down,
well, it's like you go to someone's house,
I just like having my collection.
When you go into someone's house, you look at their bookshelf and you look at their record collection. And it's kind of like peeking into their brain a little bit.
It is.
But it's like you don't open their laptop and start.
Well, maybe you don't.
But even if you did, like, kind of scroll through their iTunes, like, there's nothing, like, there's no romance there.
Yeah,
it's just like it's almost like spreadsheets. Let me see your spreadsheet.
Yeah, let me see your musical spreadsheet, right? Yeah, so it's still an art to have a collection, and it's still something that's really cool. And if you go down to Hitt Records, you'll see it's a beautiful store, actually. It's a really cool space. You guys have done a great job.
Yeah, and we have that symbiotic relationship with the bakery, bar, and the Ragtag Cinema there, and it's like people come over and the bartender's spinning records at the bar,
right? Now
and everyone's in charge of that environment, from top to bottom, and that whole building is there's a real symbiosis there that is like. All of us are in that together.
Yeah, it's really cool, actually. Well, it works because everyone's been real successful over there. So
yeah.
Hey, let's before I want to talk about Dismal Niche a little bit, but before we do that, let's read take care of our business here.
KOPN is underwritten by the We Always Swing Jazz Series. The Jazz Series presents their annual Cuban concert honoring Dr. Carlos Perez Mesa, February 7th, featuring Alfredo Rodriguez on piano and Pedrito Martinez on hand percussion. More information can be found by visiting wealwaysswing.org. Shout out to John and Josh. Hope you're listening.
All right. And the Columbia Farmers Market is indoors for the winter every Saturday at Parkade Center, 9 a.m. to noon. You'll find vegetables and fruits and meats and farm fresh eggs, cheeses, honey, cut flowers, I don't know what kind of flowers you're going to get this year, or this time of year, but plants, artisan items, and more. And as a producer-only market, everything sold here is offered by the farmers and artisans who help sustain our region. Live music, children's activities, and prepared food will be there as well. So hop on over to the farmers market tomorrow, 9 a.m. All right, back to Mr. Kyle Cook here. It's Open Mic Radio on KOPN Columbia, about 20 minutes before 10 o'clock. Stick around for Speaking of the Arts with the wonderful Diana Moxon. That'll be coming up right at 10 o'clock. And it is First Friday, and I'm guessing that Diana maybe will have a couple things to say about that. Yes, she does, sitting here in the corner as always. All right, not that we always keep her in the corner, but, just during this show.
Keep her in the corner.
Yeah.
Baby is in the corner.
I don't think anyone could keep Diana in a corner,
oh, no,
to be honest.
Definitely not.
Anyway, okay, so Hitt Records, you guys have got a successful business out there. You're selling records. You're doing a lot of different things. You're working with local artists. You also have some live shows now recently in the store.
Yeah, they pop up kind of secretly, almost on a speakeasy basis. When you're operating a venue and that's known publicly, there's weird things that come along with that. One of them is bands trying to book a show there every night.
Right.
And things like ASCAP and BMI and things like that. But yeah, it's a great, I consider it like a public service, and when someone has a show at Hitt, we never sell tickets. And it truly is that kind of like pass the hat around thing. And and there was the other tricky thing is we show movies in the other room, so we usually start the shows very late after the last movie ends, and it depends on the movie too. But so right now, Ragtag's showing of Beale Street Could Talk, a very quiet film.
Right.
Like the highs are high and the lows are very low, but it's like, okay, the rock band can't start till after 11 o'clock. So last weekend we had a local band that I'm growing very fond of called the Sweaters.
Oh yeah, young guys.
These are some young dudes.
Yeah.
And I don't mean to put them in that corner kind of thing.
They're great.
So before the show even started, it was like 11:07 and this movie's letting out, and the room is totally packed with a mix of kind of like local townies, musicians, and then high school kids. And a couple guys who were working there are looking around. They're like, "How old are these kids?" I'm like, "They're kids. I don't know. They're young teenagers." Anyway, they start playing, and it just immediately had the whole audience there just in the palm of their hands.
Isn't that something else?
Yeah, just truly amazing three-piece there.
I was talking with Will Reeves from Central Cellar.
Yeah, and they've been over there with them.
Guys. And, we had the Hickman Academy of Rock, a number of bands and kids from the Hickman Academy of Rock here a couple months ago, and Ben from the Sweaters called in. They couldn't be here, but he called in, and I'll tell you what, man, those kids are sharp for what they're.
No, truly.
It's so hard not to say for their age, but really they're just doing great stuff, and good for them. And
yeah, you got to prevent yourself from being like, "Hey, can I get you a beer?"
Right?
It's that funny thing. You're like, "Can I get you a Dr. Pepper or water or something? Are you doing okay?" And then you end up sounding like a mom,
Right. Well, there's a young scene of musicians that's really quite impressive in this area. And there's a whole bunch of young bands that are really kicking it.
Yeah, anytime someone's like, "Oh, there's not a scene happening here or something," I'm like, well, you're either missing it or just wait. These kids are coming up, and I can tell you, with the It's Me Ross dudes who are now young adults, I've known them since they were all early high school and younger, and they used to come into the shop, and I was like, I don't know who these kids are, but they're buying opera and hardcore music and world music, and I don't really know what to think about them. And then after years of this, they're like, we're forming a band, and I was like, oh man, I really want to hear this band.
No kidding.
And flash forward years later, and they'd put out a couple tapes on Tell 'em Tapes. The first release ever by Tell 'em Tapes was a It's Me Ross tape. And, they pretty well instantly sold out of it. And it's, one of those things, flash forward again, and it's like, man, I really want to put out a record by this band. And that's where we're at. And that show we were talking about on Saturday night with the Sweaters opening, that was an It's Me Ross show. And everyone who was there and saw them, it was really a special show.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. So cool. Now, Dismal Niche, how does that fit in?
So Dismal Niche is kind of like a co-op There's a lot of people involved with that in the same way when True False started, volunteers and a lot of heads in the pot there. But Matt Crook is kind of the principal. Matt Crook and Ben Klopik started it. Ben Klopik now lives in Chicago.
And it's another recording label.
Still involved. It's a label, but they also put on a festival every year, and it's usually a week after Roots and Blues, and it's almost billed as kind of like the anti-Roots and Blues. Not to be an anti, but it is a mix of very avant-garde, neoclassical, ambient, experimental, harsh noise, hardcore poetry and jazz.
How long have they been doing it?
And this is, I believe, it's been about as long as the shop, so 5 years
huh? Yeah.
or so, and maybe this will be the 4th or 5th year the festival has been happening in 2019. But it's a great thing where a lot of people come together. That in that, like, the venues, like Eastside Tavern always hosts some of the shows. KOPN, had Laraji up here, and amongst others. In the last couple of years, KOPN's been involved, and then places like the Stevens Chapel. So these kind of intimate shows at these venues that are not conventional. And PDM is another usually involved with that, but that's one of those things you kind of have to pay attention because Dismal Niche has no advertising, and so
word of mouth.
It's a very word of mouth deal, and it's something of course we promote at the shop, but not many other places. Right?
Okay, all right. Look, stay here on the air with me, but I'm going to do a quick rundown of some of the things that are happening tonight and tomorrow. You can chime in because you probably know more about these bands than I do. At the Blue Note tonight, we have Joe Wetzel with Jacob Bryant and Tim Allen. I don't think it's Tim Allen.
I don't think it's the comedian.
I wish it were. I might go check him out. He's pretty funny. And let's see. And then tomorrow at the Blue Note, you got 90s versus the 2000s, the hip hop edition with DJ Requiem. At Rose tonight, happy hour, the Fried Crawdaddies. That'll be always fun. You got Tony and the gang out there playing some music from 5 till 7. And then later on tonight at Rose, you've got Shades of One. You familiar, Kyle?
No, I am not.
Shades of One with Ampersand, Community Sadness, and Sequoia. It must be some emo thing.
That sounds pretty intense.
Community Sadness. I like it. And on Saturday at Rose, you've got the Jimi Hendrix Salute. Are You Experienced?
Dang. Yeah, I know some people who are involved with that.
Is that a local production?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
And they're going to do they're going to do it up as if
they're going to
Jimmy
throw
was in
down.
town.
Right.
Okay. That'll be fun.
The experience.
I'd love to have one.
Yeah.
I never got to see. I'm old enough, but I blew it. The Norm Rubling Band out at Roachport Store. That's always fun. Those guys are good.
Sure.
And I think the Comancheros will be playing at Nash Vegas. I don't know. What else? You got anything going at Hit this weekend?
No, we got a nice quiet week.
Yeah.
Just being plain old being open.
All right. And it is First Friday here in Columbia, so there's lots going on down there in the art.
Sure. Yeah, I'll be DJing over at the Sager Broadus Gallery.
Is that right?
Right. I usually do that. But it's fun that that I like playing sets of music to crowds where it's like I'm just trying to be like ignorable yet interesting.
Yeah,
and that's exactly the kind of
that's a challenge. That's a great gallery.
That's exactly the kind of music,
and you get an interesting crowd that goes through there too. So
it's a very Jeff Wheeler set, if you will.
Yeah, I can see it. Yeah. I can hear it. Maybe.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. All right. So what's in store for the future here for Hit Records and Kyle and the radio show? Are you still on the board of directors here?
No. I termed out. I did 4 years. It was wonderful.
Did your time and
right.
You're still on active reserve?
I'm not. Yeah. I'm not against helping out in any way. So I'm not against that. I think programming committee would be a good thing for me to help out with. But, But as a late night representative. But, KOPN, whatever it takes, wherever you need me. Yeah.
Well, I love it. I've been a huge fan of your shows for a long time, and you're a good dude. And,
likewise.
And I'm sure pleased with what's happening over there at Hit Records. Good job for you guys. And tell Tony and Taylor and the rest of the gang that I said hi. And,
absolutely.
All right. What's the next show? Do you have anything planned for shows coming up?
We do. There's going to be
talk about on the air.
Well, True False is coming up, so there'll be a lot of stuff going on involved with True False music.
So how involved does Hit Records get?
We're pretty fully entrenched at this point. So
do you show films there?
We become the traveling musician shop.
Well, there's a lot of music involved in True False now.
So we totally clear out our whole cabinet in the front, and it's all just just traveling musicians merchandise. So we
Really?
run like 2 businesses at once.
Right on.
So it's a really intense weekend, but I just, the only thing I'll say about True False these days is I used to see a lot of movies. I no longer see any films. Yeah, I'm just like trying to get through the weekend. It's wonderful though. It's great. There'll be some in stores, and then also that same weekend Violet and the Undercurrents will be releasing a record.
Oh, cool.
And they'll be doing an in-store at the shop
Awesome.
too. And I know she's promoting that online and things like that. And as we draw closer, we'll start to talk about that a little more.
When is True False?
So that's going to be that last weekend in February into early March.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think the last day is like the 3rd of March or something like that.
All right.
I haven't even thought that far ahead yet, but it's really close.
Yep,
it's
coming
like
up in just a few weeks.
less than a month away.
Amazing.
Yeah.
All right, Kyle,
Fry my mind.
before you take off, a couple of artist tips. Who you've been listening to lately? Let's name some bands and some artists that maybe
I really
would be
dig
a little bit more obscure than
Sure.
people are maybe normally hearing.
Some things that are kind of big on the indie radar right now. I really like that new Deer Hunter album and the new Steve Gunn with 2 N's. He used to play in Kurt Weill's band. I knew you had one of his pulled up. Like really beautiful sounding recordings, and I like all the female artists I'm seeing, like kind of pushing the envelope these days. There's like No Name is the and it's just one word. No Name is this Chicago like MC, rapper, producer, and she is released 2 really brilliant and like poignant, and it's like Trump era like hip hop and poetry.
Nice.
So No Name, and also this band out of Australia, speaking of like political and relevant new punk, this band called Constant Mongrel. And I could go on and on about all the Australian bands I like and how terrible their names are, going back to like the 70s.
Right.
But Constant Mongrel, and this the track's called Living in Excellence. And, I've been describing that as
sounds like something from Bill and Ted's
some
Adventure.
Trump era punk, like The Fall, but like more garage. And but yeah, I'll just leave you with those to start with. Yeah.
All right, Kyle. Thanks, my friend.
You bet.
All right, that's the always amazing Kyle Cook. You can find him on the radio at 2 o'clock in the morning every Sunday morning. Also, Holy Victrola Wednesday nights, right?
Yeah, 10 p.m.
Yeah, 10 p.m.
Always worth checking out. Revolving hosts, but just a really
Always
great
good
show.
stuff, though. Yeah, real good stuff. And again, all this
Taylor's doing that show next week.
Really?
So
it's you,
and he
Taylor,
does
and
he
Sean?
does Taylor does them like quarterly, and Taylor really pours
he
his
digs deep,
heart
man.
and soul into
I
it.
know
you
he does.
He was famous for his all 45 shows that he would do every week. Like, will fry your mind if you
Well,
try to
his
keep that
collection
up.
is just outrageous. I
Right.
mean, it's got to be.
It's it's all up there in his mind.
Yeah, pretty crazy.
Yeah.
All right, Kyle, take it easy, bro. All right, and on the street at Hit Records, number 10 Hit Street, over there you can find Hit Records and Kyle and Taylor and Tony and, gosh, you never know who else you might run into down there. Steph Foley, yeah, Steph's down there a lot too. In fact, I got to get Steph on the radio here. I invited her to come down. She hasn't taken me up on it yet, but maybe you could give her a little boost, huh?
Definitely.
All right, we've got about 5 minutes left here, and I've got a song that's about 4 minutes long, so I will tell you that if you want to get a hold of me, you can send me an email at MikeHagan@MikeHagan.com, and I'm interested in new stuff or old stuff, or if you've got a band that you're putting together and you'd like to come here and talk on the air and maybe play some songs for us. I'm always up for having musicians here in the studio like we do normally every Friday. Yeah, or if you want to tip me off to something, you can do that as well, okay? So once again, on the web at MikeHagan.com, and you can send me an email at MikeHagan@MikeHagan.com. All right, stick around for Diana Moxon, and Speaking of the Arts, that's coming up in just about 5 minutes. And later today, we've got great stuff all Friday, and good music starting around 4 o'clock. Of course, we've got Penguin Tracks with Jill, and then Power Pop Pat keeps the popping going with all the P's from 6 o'clock until 8 with the Punk Show and Power Pop. And then you got the Grateful Dead. What happens after the Dead? We still have the Blue Plate Special, but it's not all. It used to be all Little Feat, but now it's sort of a mix now. Anyway, great stuff for the rest of the day here on KOPN, so keep it locked in. And in the meantime, enjoy yourselves. I'll be back next week with the band Loose Loose. Pretty excited to have them them down here. Yeah, they're awesome. What do you know about Loose Loose, Kyle?
Really great dudes. Totally chameleon-like. When you go see their show, they're probably involved with that Hendrix show. They can play anything.
Yeah, super talented musicians, right? All right, anyway, so I hope you all have a great weekend. Enjoy the warm weather. And another thank you to Kyle. Until next week, it's Mike. This is Open Mic Radio, KOPN Columbia. And this one is from It's Me, Ross. It's called See You on the Other Side.